A week ago, I celebrated 1 year since I moved to the countryside from the city. The next day, I was in hospital because the countryside tried to kill me. When they finally let me go home, it rained so much the water coming down off my fields made my driveway explode. With hindsight, leaving the nice safe place where I'd lived for 50 years to be here was a mistake. I even Googled the exact definition of mistake to ensure I wasn't mistaken. An error caused by poor reasoning, carelessness, insufficient knowledge, etc. Yes, huge mistake. However, that's not to say the long-term outcome will be negative. People make mistakes all the time where they end up glad they did. I've done that. I once entered a 100-kilometer ultramarathon with no training. Huge mistake, a dangerous one even, but I ended up glad I did it. I gained from having made that mistake in all sorts of ways, a sense of achievement, pride in having done it.
Well done. Ah, this is for YouTube, man.
So this mistake may well end up being like that, a great mistake. Right now though, it feels like I'm 10 hours into that run. This is stupid. Why would anybody want to do this? This is nuts. There's no one here, just in a field. I am in a field and it is nuts. During my last video I explained that I wasn't sure what the point of future videos here would be. Is it fitness content? Is it crazy old man in the countryside content? What is it? And then a few people said stuff like, that is it, this channel is done, I'm unsubscribing, it's not even funny anymore. And I thought, well, if I'm pissing off idiots who think anyone gives a shit what they subscribe to, good, just keep doing it. So in this video, why was moving here a mistake? And why did it do nothing for my health and fitness? And why might everything end up okay anyway? Or might not, could go either way. It's quite exciting. And obviously, feel free to take comfort if your own life is also undergoing error status. Know that you're not alone. Whether your pipes have just collapsed or you're eating too much, somebody else is in the same boat. Ironically, I could have done with a boat. Right, this place first. It's too much, it's just way too much. To explain how we got here. 2 years ago, I just turned 50. We're supposed to celebrate by buying a Ford Mustang. If you're thinking, a Porsche and a much younger wife, that's the way to have a midlife crisis. I did that at 40, keep up. So I found a car, delivery miles only, mint condition, was due to go and collect it when the garage texts to say they'd sold it. As I'm reading their text, in tears, my much younger wife texts me at the same time saying, look at this cool house in the countryside. It was something that she did every now and then with no expectation that we'd ever move to the countryside. Just like I would text her occasionally saying, look at this cool gadget that I'd then go and buy. So here was one door opened as another closed. I took it as a sign from above. She was upstairs when she texted and we went to look at that house. And it was shit for all sorts of reasons, but it had ignited something in us to escape city life. When we viewed that property, they had a sheep in their garden. I didn't even know normal people could own a sheep. I could pretend to be a farmer. And I was hooked. So we carried on looking and then we suffered acreage creep. That first house had 3/4 of an acre. The next one we saw had 2 acres. And we thought, well, we need that. We could probably get 2 sheep. And then 4, 6, 7 acres. Then our mortgage company pointed out, be careful, we won't lend on 10 acres or more because of some small print thing. So we knew we had to find somewhere with 9.99 acres and it had to be in the middle of nowhere because we had a fixed budget, and the way to get more land for the same money is go where most people don't want to be. And so here we are, 9.99 remote acres with sheep and goats and chickens and pigs, and it is just too much. Maybe if it was just one big field, but it's not. It's 10 acres of woods and streams and meadows and ponds and more woods. It's a lot. And people think, well, leave it, let it be wild. That doesn't work. Then you just end up with 10 acres of brambles and bank erosion and floods. The wild needs man or woman. 5,000 years ago, maybe not. There'd have been deer and bear and elk wandering around, trampling the brambles and eating the plants that cause the erosion. But we killed all of them, not us personally, but they are dead. So now it's just us. And that's just the land. There's also a house that's 300 years old and my wife wants to decorate every inch of it, and a barn and outbuildings and paths and lanes and the animals, so they all need keeping alive too. If all that weren't enough, we have no idea what we're doing here. I know how to use Amazon, so I've got all the toys, but that is it. Our last house, we bought it 10 years ago, brand new. We did lots to it that felt like a big deal at the time. Looking back, we just painted a few walls and hung a couple of shelves. At one point, we knocked through some plasterboard to make the dogs an understairs kennel. We acted like we just made a shopping centre. Here, it's tractors and chainsaws all the time, and we don't have a clue. And we need a clue, because no one helps you If I want water, it comes from my well. If I want to flush the water, it goes to my sewage. If I'm cold, I had to chop down one of my trees. Apart from electricity, everything coming into our house is our responsibility. If we had regular jobs in an office, 9 till 5 during the day, it'd be completely impossible here. But even doing what we do, there's still not enough time. And some will say, well, YouTube and Instagram and social media, it's not proper jobs. But trust me, it takes up a lot more time than I've ever given to any normal form of employment. I'm 52 years old and I have never been so busy, never. Here is a random day in my life. Yesterday, spent 4 hours on the phone back and forth to Meta to find out why Facebook and Instagram were trying to shut down half the content on my wife's accounts with them.
You froze the account. I had to get your attention, Mark. Do you realize that you jeopardized the entire company?
And then did pretty much the same time again with the local vet to see why our new goat was so unwell and wouldn't stop shivering. Cover her up and try to limit the shaking was the advice. And for the goat a B12 injection. All day on just 2 things, and the to-do list here grows at 5 things a day. I'm going backwards. And yeah, the B12 for the goat, not kidding, here you treat your own animals. If you're used to taking a dog to a vet to get its nails clipped, this was a wake-up call. If your animals are sick here, the vet just drops off drugs and needles and things to stick down their throat. And if they do stick around to chat, they look at the animal and go, I guess we'll see if it makes it through the night. If you ask them to clip its nails, they'd euthanize you. Tomorrow, I've got to vaccinate on my own my sheep against blue tongue. What is that? It's a 4-legged animal, lives in herds, quite woolly. And they say I'm not funny anymore. Anyway, blue tongue, no idea. Catching the buggers is the main worry. So yeah, it's all just a bit too much. Every day is overwhelming. Progress is at best 2 steps forward, fall over in the mud. Getting a task completed here, it feels like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. If the deck chairs are ones that you'd made yourself and so they looked a bit shit, and the lifeboats are all filled with fucking chickens, and there's no end in sight. As I said earlier, just last night, my driveway exploded. We'd spent all summer excited to see how the crazy old drains that we'd uncovered would help with the wet weather, and it then turns out that drains made by cavemen don't mix with driveways made by cowboys. What do you even write down on the to-do list for that? I'll tell you what I wrote down: park truck on bulging drive, hope no one notices. And then there's the danger. Oh, the danger. After last week, I've now got a first aid kit in the car, in the truck, with the tractor, with the chainsaw, in the workshop, in the gym, and there's one in the house that I could amputate your limb with, because it is dangerous here. Although there is a silver lining to that. But first, Shocks have sponsored this video. Do they want to follow me discussing limb amputation? Probably not. They probably hope I'll put some B-roll up of me doing something quite sporting.
Oh, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. This is nuts. I hate this stupid fucking race.
Quite frankly, why they continue to support me and the channel is as much a mystery as to what Blue Tongue is. Maybe they feel bad that I was going on about their awesome products long before they knew who I was. Maybe they're excited to be around for my return to fitness glory while wearing these. Who knows? But their stuff is great, they pay on time, and that driveway is not cheap to fix, so here we are. Open Run Pro 2, bone conduction speaker and air conduction. So the safety of open ear technology with the sound quality of decent earphones. I genuinely use these all the time here because I want to listen to podcasts, but also want to hear if a tree branch is about to fall on my head and kill me. And on that point, these are tough. It's not really a feature that Shocks go on about themselves much, but I've abused these. They get thrown on the floor, they get used in the rain, they get stuffed in my tool belt. If they can survive here, chucking them in your gym bag is a walk in the park. These did not exist when I was running, not this model anyway, and I wish it had. 12 hours of playtime, great for taking and making calls, superb audio. It's enough to make me consider ultra running again.
Oh my God.
Maybe not. Anyway, I wear these. Jen wears the OpenFit 2 model. Neither of us use anything else, and we have owned everything else, but keep coming back to Shocks. Love them. So yes, you should go buy these because they have their Black Friday sale on from the 20th of November, up to 35% off, and because they are brilliant, and because that drive is so hospitals and health in general, because you could be forgiven for thinking that as I'm stood in my dream gym, one upside of moving here would be that getting in shape would be easy. Opposite was true. Now I knew this place would get me eventually. There were just too many dangerous things here, but I thought it would be something big. I'd already dodged the deadly lime powder explosion, I'd avoided the runaway tractor, and somehow I use a chainsaw most days, still got 10 digits. But I thought it's only a matter of time before some spectacular disaster. And what actually got me snuck up on me. I was filling a French drain with gravel from a bucket on the back of the tractor. The bucket tipping bolt wasn't in properly, so it slipped, cracked me on my elbow. What you should do is go to your tractor first aid kit, clean that huge wound and put a plaster over it. What I did was ignore it until 2 weeks later when my arm swelled up bright red. My wife wasn't keen on the Hellboy look and I'd missed Halloween anyway, so she sent me to hospital where it got a bit scary. It turned out I had a pretty nasty infection that was spreading through my arm too fast for my body to control it. That is called cellulitis, and a potential worsening of that would be something like sepsis, and a potential worsening of that would be something like being dead. I knew that because as I was sat in the hospital on intravenous antibiotics, I'm surrounded by posters and leaflets pointing out that sepsis is apparently the silent killer of farmers who injure themselves, don't wash properly, and then ignore signs of infection. They didn't mention pretend farmers, but I'm assuming they were included too. So yes, very scary, especially as at one point I said to a doctor, I said, look, after being hooked up to all these drugs for a day or so, I'm guessing that my arm's just going to deflate and go back to normal and I'll be okay. Expecting him to say, of course. Instead, he said, we'll know when we know, and then left. Know what when we know what? I mean, the bloke is worse than my goat vet. And it dawned on me that as a 52-year-old pretend farmer that eats badly and hasn't exercised in 2 years, dying from something like severe infection would not be staggeringly surprising. I am nothing special. Why should I be immune to health issues? In contrast, a few years before, during COVID, I had zero concerns about being ill. In fact, the only time I tested positive for COVID, it was after a 4-hour Zwift race. And I wanted to know why I'd not placed in the top 3, so I took a test. And it was positive. I then trained arms and shoulders the next day in a garage. If COVID had actually killed me, a fitness YouTuber running ultras for fun, it would have literally been newsworthy. The Daily Mail, with its obsession to either terrify or infuriate, would have been all over a story on somebody like this getting done in by COVID. If I died from this issue last week, might have made the village Facebook group. So I left hospital and I was determined to fix things once I could use my arm again, to return to being above average. Because sat in that hospital, I felt average at best and I did not like it. And I've kind of missed the routine experience of measuring myself against others. Before moving here, I was doing some sort of race or an event almost every weekend. I was constantly aiming to be better than most in a pool of people that it's hard to beat. Spartans, high roxers, runners, cyclists. I wanted to be good compared to them. Here, there's no one to compare against. So when I got the chance to finally do so on a hospital ward, it was worrying to feel that I was pretty run-of-the-mill against a bunch of sick people. So I am remotivated to do what I always aimed to do, to be better than most. And so I thought it might be useful to highlight that it took me 2 years and a near-death experience to get here. Pretty much exactly 2 years, I know that, because about 2 years ago I just done my last high rocks, was on track to turn 50, and I couldn't wait to do so. My expectation was that I was going to be one of the fittest 50-year-olds around. I was probably more excited about turning 50 than any age ever. And then I went on a holiday and I came back with no motivation to do anything and zero excuses. So if you're also struggling to get a grip on your diet, a grip on your fitness, it might be handy to know you're not alone. There may well be light at the end of your tunnel, as there has turned out to be at mine. And until you get there, don't panic and don't believe the bullshit that you will be told, because when you eat badly and don't exercise or stay in shape, people with no issues of their own will tell you what yours are. They'll tell you all sorts of things as to why it's the case that you're doing what you're doing. Lack of knowledge on what to eat and how to train, lack of money for good food and a good gym, or maybe that you're just lazy or lack discipline or just plain old stupid. But I was none of those things. I had the knowledge, I'd done it before, I knew exactly what to do, I had the money for whatever food I wanted, had all the kit I needed, and I'm not lazy. When I moved in here, I worked every hour available turning that old barn into the gym, and it was months of hard work. And I'm not that stupid, despite what the doctor said about not cleaning my wound. No, the reality is that for a huge number of people, me, over the last 2 years, shitty food is nice to eat, and not exercising is a very relaxing way to spend your day. And that's it. That's just what you want to do until you don't, for whatever reason. For me, the first time I got in shape 15, 16 years ago, I was about to lose my marriage. This time, I thought I might lose my arm. I'm not sure which is worse. I can tell you which is more expensive. There's a million other reasons that should have been enough. The gear that I have here, the job I have, the wife I have, the sheep I can't catch. All good reasons to be fitter and healthier than most. But none of them stuck. Not like a bright red limb with fingers I couldn't feel did. So, will this place end up being a good mistake? Will this arm end up being the reason I return to fitness long term? Certainly both have the potential to end up incredible. This place could be amazing. So could my fitness. How do I make sure of it? I don't. Just like being 10 hours into that ultra marathon, I just keep pushing forward and assume it'll be okay in the end. When will I know if it was? Well, we'll know when we know. Seriously, what sort of bedside manner is that? The guy scared the life out of me.